The Night They Told Me, Part 1, Before the Night Breaks. I was asleep in the little middle bedroom of Granny's trailer, the one barely big enough for a bed and a nightstand. It was a 1970s single wide, still holding a trace of that plastic new trailer smell even though she had lived in it a while. The walls were thin and sound from the living room traveled easily down the narrow hallway whether you wanted it to or not. Earlier that evening, before any of it happened, I had been watching television. I don't remember what channel it was, only that it was one of those shows meant for families. The kind that came on early enough for kids to watch before bedtime. In it, a little boy's daddy had died. I remember the house on the screen as clear as anything. A small place with a patch of yard out front, a little hill rising up beside it. I remember the boy standing on the porch, crying after they towed him, his whole body turned inward like he was trying to hold himself together. I didn't know why that scene got to me. I just knew it made my chest feel tight and sad, and that I wished we were with my daddy that night instead of staying at Granny's. I didn't have words for it. I only remember feeling unsettled in a way I couldn't explain. Looking back now, it's strange how a memory like that can settle into your mind quiet as a seed, laying there unnoticed, waiting for what comes next. When the show was over, the house went back to its usual evening sounds, television murmuring from the living room, someone moving around the kitchen, the familiar rhythm of voices and footsteps. Nothing felt wrong, nothing felt different enough to name. I went to bed thinking about that boy on the porch, and then I fell asleep. Part 2, The House Changes. Sometime in the night, I drifted halfway awake and heard the front door open. It wasn't loud enough to startle me, just enough to register. In Granny's trailer, sound traveled, doors, footsteps, voices, they all slipped down the hallway whether you were listening or not. At first, I didn't think much of it. Poppy sometimes came in late, and the door opening by itself wasn't unusual. What felt different was the quiet that followed. Not the normal quiet of a house settling back down, but the kind that feels held, like someone is trying not to be heard. I lay still, staring at the dim outline of the wall beside my bed. Somewhere down the hall, I heard voices rolling careful. I couldn't make out the words, only the sound of them. Then I heard something else. Crying. Soft and muffled. The kind grown folks try to hide when they don't want children to hear. That made me fully awake. It wasn't Papaw. Even at 8 years old, I would have known if Papaw had been there. The house didn't carry his presence that way. This was quieter, smaller, just Poppy's voice and my mother's grief answering it. I stayed where I was. I didn't get out of bed. I didn't call out. I didn't walk down the hallway to see what was happening. Something in me knew not to. The night felt careful, like it was being handled gently, and I understood enough to lay still. The voices stayed low. The crying came and went. Every sound seemed measured, as if making too much noise might break something already fragile. I pulled the covers up a little higher and waited, not knowing what I was waiting for, only knowing that something had changed, and that the house no longer felt the same. Mama and Papa, Part 3. After Poppy told my mom he didn't let her drive, he took her in his car and drove her himself. There was no discussion about it. She wasn't going to go alone. She wasn't going to carry this road by herself. They went straight to Mama and Papa's. Poppy did most of the talking. He was the preacher. He knew how or what words to say that no one wanted to hear. My mom stood there with him, already breathing, breaking in places she didn't have time to tend to yet. Mama didn't scream when she heard. She didn't fall to the floor or make a sound at first. She turned away. like she needed to put distance between herself and the words, and started towards the bathroom. As she passed the end of the couch, she reached down and picked up a framed picture of my daddy she kept there, an 8x10 sitting on the table beside it. She held it tight against her chest, not like a picture, like him. She stood there crying, hugging that frame, as if holding it were hard enough might bring him back into the room. Then she turned and went into the bathroom. What came next didn't need to be seen to be understood. My mom later said you could hear her scream, the kind that comes from someplace too deep to control, and then the sound of glass breaking. The frame shattered from how tightly Mama was holding it. Papa went to her. No one ever said they saw him cry. If his voice broke, it was only enough to let you know how much it cost him to speak.
Power off.
He checked on Mama. He checked on Debbie and Sheila, who had broken down completely when they heard. He stayed steady because someone had to. After a while, they knew what came next. They didn't rush it. They waited until Papa was ready. Then they came back together. Papa in his own vehicle, likely his international Jeep, and Poppy driving Mom in his car the same way he had brought her up there. By the time they pulled back into Granny's place, I was asleep again. That was about to change. Part 3, the telling. The next time I woke up, my mom was there. She sat down on the edge of the bed and turned sideways so she could face me. The mattress dipped under the weight. I remember the warmth of her arm around my shoulder before she said anything at all. I don't remember her words. Not one of them. What I remember is her voice breaking, the way her breath caught, the way she tried to speak. I remember the feeling in my chest like something had opened up and gone hollow all at once. I started asking questions before I understood what had happened. Why? 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 And then how? She stayed with me for a few minutes, holding me while I cried, long enough to tell me, long enough to make sure I wasn't alone. Then she stood up and left the room. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. She went to the living room because she was breaking, and she didn't want to break that hard in front of me. After she left, Poppy and Papa came in. The room was too small for all of us all at once. It was one of those middle bedrooms in the single wide trailer, just enough space for a bed and an end table, and a narrow walkway between the bed and the sliding wood panel closet door. They sat down on the bed with me. One of them put their arm across my shoulders, the other rested his hand across the middle of my back. They didn't say much, maybe nothing at all. I don't remember words. I remember closeness. I remember weight. I remember the feeling of being held steady from both sides in a world that had suddenly turned to chaos. That was safety.